An emergency fund? That's a bit of an exaggeration. That's exactly what I'm saying. And I know right now you're thinking, what is this guy talking about? The internet finance gurus are telling you the same thing. Save up 6 months worth of expenses, stash it in a high interest savings account, and sleep soundly. It sounds reasonable. It feels safe. But I have to ask you this. Why is safe advice still keeping you stuck in the middle class? Why do people who do exactly what they're told find 10 years later that they've barely made any progress? The answer is this: because safe advice isn't designed to protect you, it's designed to keep you stuck in place. Today, I'm going to show you the math that financial advisors don't include in their Instagram reels. Real numbers, real data, and 5 concrete reasons why an emergency fund might be the most expensive mistake you can make right now. If you're middle class and tired of run-of-the-mill advice, this video is for you. Let's get started. The first reason is opportunity cost. And this isn't just a theoretical concept, it's real money lost. Your emergency fund isn't just sitting there doing nothing. It's running a race, it's losing without you even realizing it. Right now, the best high-interest savings accounts are paying around 3.3% interest. Ally, Capital One, Discover, they're all clustered there. If we look at the national average, it's 0.39%. Chase is still paying you 0.01% as if they're doing you a favor. Thanks, Chase. You're really so generous. Now, things are taking a different turn. Inflation was reported at 2.4% as of January 2026. The Fed's own projections indicate it will remain between 2.5% and 2.6% throughout the year. So, if you subtract 2.5% inflation from a 3.3% savings interest rate, the real return is 0.8% before taxes. If you're in the 22% tax bracket, your real return after taxes is practically zero. It's just a rounding error. So, what do the actual numbers say? Let's assume you have a $20,000 emergency fund. If you keep that money in a savings account, at a 3.5% interest rate for 10 years, it will grow to about $28,000. That doesn't look too bad, does it? But if you had invested that same $20,000 in an S&P 500 index fund, which historically averages about a 10% annual return, that money would have grown to $51,000. That's a $22,000 difference. You left more on the table than your original investment. The S&P 500 delivered a 25% return in 2024 and nearly 18% in 2025. 2 massive years in a row. Meanwhile, your savings account was paying out a participation bonus. Let me be clear, I'm not telling you to invest your rent money in Tesla options. Relax. But if you have a stable job, keep 1 to 3 months worth of expenses in liquid assets and put the rest into a Roth IRA or an index fund. Your money needs to work as hard as you do. The second reason, and this might upset some people, is that an emergency fund isn't your only safety net. It might not even be the best one. Right now, there are credit cards with 0% introductory APR and up to 21 months of interest-free financing. The US Bank Shield Visa gives you 24 months. Borrow with 0% interest for 24 months. If an emergency arises, if something happens to your car or you need a medical procedure, you can use that card and pay it off in 20 months and it won't cost you a single penny in interest. Meanwhile, the $20,000 you keep in your savings account could earn you a 7% to 10% return on investment. One of the important topics that nobody talks about is disability insurance. 1 in 4 people in their 20s becomes disabled before retirement. This isn't a number I made up. It's data from the Social Security Administration. And 90% of these disabilities aren't caused by accidents, but by illnesses. Not parachute accidents. Back problems, cancer, mental health issues. A disability insurance policy costs approximately $40 to $125 per month and covers 60% of your income. If you pay premiums with after-tax income, these benefits are tax-free. So that 60% actually amounts to 75% to 80% of the money you receive. Compare that to an emergency fund that runs out in 3 to 6 months. Insurance keeps paying out for years. For just $50 a month, you get far more protection than a cash pile. I shouldn't overlook an important warning. You must be disciplined with credit. The average credit card interest rate is currently 21%. If you can't pay off that zero interest card before the promotion ends, it will crush you. Keep $5,000 in liquid assets for real emergencies. Use credit as a bridge, not a lifestyle. The third reason is that inflation is a silent thief, stealing from your emergency fund right under your nose. We've experienced the worst inflation surge in the last 40 years. In June 2022, prices rose by 9.1%. Yes, It has now dropped to 2.4%. But here's what people overlook. Inflation works cumulatively, it doesn't reverse itself. Those high prices are here to stay. Think about that $15,000 emergency fund from 2022. Even if you earned a 4% interest rate during that time, the money's real purchasing power barely increased at all. You might have 20% more dollars, but everything is also 20% more expensive. You're on a treadmill and the belt is moving. The Fed projects that inflation will remain above its 2% target through 2028. The Congressional Budget Office explicitly states that inflation will remain sticky due to tariffs and fiscal policy. There's no return to the target until 2028 to 2030. That means another 2 to 4 years of your savings quietly eroding. By the way, Treasury Inflation Protected Securities, TIPS, are currently offering a yield 1.8 percentage points above inflation. That's a guaranteed real return. Series I bonds are currently paying 4.03% interest and have a built-in inflation adjustment. You can buy up to $10,000 worth per year. These are government-backed investment tools designed to beat inflation, and almost no one uses them because they're not as cool as saying you've saved up for 6 months, but looking cool doesn't pay the bills. Math does. The fourth reason, and no one wants to admit this, is that excessive saving leads to a less fulfilling life. How many experiences have you missed out on because you were afraid to touch your emergency fund? That trip you wanted to take, that side hustle you wanted to start, that certification course that could increase your salary by 20%. You didn't do them because a financial influencer told you to save 12 months worth of expenses before even thinking about living. Let's do a rough calculation. If you set aside just $2,000 from your oversized emergency fund for a side hustle, and nearly 40% of Americans currently have a side hustle, according to LendingTree, about 40% of Americans are currently working a second job with an average monthly side income of about $900. You'd earn an additional $11,000 a year from that $2,000 investment. And this additional income stream actually serves as much better job loss insurance than a savings account because it diversifies your income sources rather than just hoarding cash. Or invest that same $2,000 at an 8% return. That's $3,200 in 5 years, $4,300 in 10 years. It's not life-changing on its own, but when you multiply the fact that you're directing those extra savings toward growth every year, we're talking about real wealth building. In a study published in 2023, Vanguard found that those who built a fully cash emergency fund before investing had the lowest 10-year wealth outcomes. Those who invested while building their safety net had $17,000 more after 10 years. Saving cash upfront actually made people poorer. Here's the fifth reason, and I really need you to hear this. Traditional advice on emergency funds assumes everyone starts from the same place. I'm sorry, but that's not true. According to the Federal Reserve's 2022 Consumer Finance Survey, the median net worth of a white family is $285,000. For a black family, it's $44,000. For a Hispanic family, it's $61,000. Now think about this. What happens when all three families are told to save $10,000 in cash? For the white family, that's 3.5% of their net worth. It barely makes a dent. For the black family, that's 22% of everything they own sitting in a savings account that earns almost nothing. The typical black family has only $2,100 in liquid savings. For the typical white family, it's $12,000. When you tell a family with $2,100 in the bank to save 6 months worth of expenses before investing, you're essentially telling them to pile cash into low-yield accounts for years. The wealth gap between white and black families grew by an additional $50,000 between 2019 and 2022, reaching $240,000. Let me be very clear before the crowd lynches me. I'm not telling you to save nothing. That would be madness. A Vanguard study found that even a $2,000 emergency fund significantly improves financial well-being. It meaningfully reduces financial stress for 3 to 6 months. But beyond that, there are diminishing returns. As a psychological benefit flattens out, the opportunity cost keeps climbing. If you have a high-risk job, are self-employed, or work in an industry experiencing cyclical layoffs, you should definitely hold on to more cash. Black workers currently face a 7.2% unemployment rate, nearly double the 3.7% rate for white workers, according to January 2026 BLS data. This is a real risk and requires real preparation, but preparation doesn't mean hoarding cash. It means being strategic. Here's what I'd really recommend. Keep $2,000 to $5,000 in a high-interest savings account for true emergencies. Maximize your Roth IRA, $7,000 in 2025 and $7,500 in 2026, because you can withdraw every dollar you contribute at any time without penalties or taxes. Get a credit card with a 0% introductory APR as a backup bridge. Especially if you don't have employer provided insurance, look into disability insurance. Invest the rest in low cost index funds where your money actually grows. This isn't reckless behavior. It's the approach shown by a Financial Planning Association study to result in 20% more wealth compared to those who keep everything in cash during their retirement. 20%. That could amount to hundreds of thousands of dollars. So here's your homework for tonight. Open your savings account, check the balance, and ask yourself, is this money working for me or against me? Am I holding on to it because of math or because of fear? Because 59% of Americans can't even cover a $1,000 emergency from their savings right now. The problem isn't that you have too little savings. The problem is that the system is designed to keep your money moving slowly while prices are moving quickly. Subscribe, leave a comment, and share this with someone who needs to hear it. See you in the next video.